Hey guys, Ponylover1989 here, and welcome to another reaction episode. So far, I got like 868 subscribers, I think. Oh, yep, I was right. I have 867 subscribers so far. I thought it was 68. Oh well. Keep pressing that subscribe button, folks, and I'm pretty sure I could get more followers and autistic friends out there. Anyway, Something Different 765 enjoyed my reactions to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Garden Bam Bam and Rainbow Stories parody video, and Kaiju Okami reviewing Engine Sentai Go Onger, and Professor trying to beat Wii Party Insane Difficulty in impossible difficulty mode. Well, he enjoyed it so much that he insisted on suggesting me to react to 3 more suggested reactions. Now this animation review is made by Employee A Million, and it is a rough look at T.U.F.F Puppy. Now, T.U.F.F Puppy is a superhero action cartoon series with superhero animals, and this was created by Butch Hartman, the creator of Danny Phantom and Butch Hartman, the creator of Danny Phantom and Fairly Odd Parents. So, I don't know how many parts there are gonna be, so let's just say I might react in Fluttershy's voice, or Pinkie Pie's voice, or Meowth's voice, or Rainbow Dash's voice. I'm not really sure. Here we go in 3, 2, 1, and let's begin reacting.
I'm pretty much always on Do Not Disturb mode, even now. M&M's for all fun kind.
M&M's for all the fun kind. Do you love M&M's? I like M&M's. What about you? Oh, this is a chase ad. Not interested. EAM, Employee A Million.
You again? Look,
Butch
fellas,
Hartman?
while I don't have much nice to say
Butch
about
Hartman
this
in
Edgar
cartoon
Bradstein
form in the
schmuck,
comics?
I can't just ignore that he used
Nickelodeon's
to make pretty good
flat
shows.
icon?
While Danny Phantom tripped up a little bit, and the Fairly Odd Parents tripped up a lot, they both had great foundations and could appeal to all kids in a snap. But people change, and so do their creative decisions, which is why Butch's 3rd show in 9 years was the most different and promising yet. T.U.F.F Puppy. Seems like a stretch to say now, but back when it was about to come out, it looked like a new frontier for Billionfold. Both their previous shows were very similar in concept. Spiky-haired boy has access to fantastical powers and world, but this was a new genre, a new world full of anthropomorphic animals, and new story opportunities with an all-adult cast. But then it came out. It's been pretty polarizing ever since. Some people like it, others hate it. That's the case with basically every Nicktoon, but T.U.F.F Puppy got easily the most mixed reaction of any of Butch's shows, because it has a fanbase smaller than the Fairly Odd Parents and Danny Phantoms, but it's not completely dismissed like Bunsen is a Beast. So this is going to be an interesting review. I'll be defending it just as much as I'll be tearing into it. But as always, I have to start from the beginning.
I don't think I've
Some of
seen
the earliest art
Butch
Hartman drew of T.U.F.F Puppy dates to around 2005,
Fairly
and
Odd
featured
Parents
a
Break
dog
into
with a
Roots,
gun.
the video game.
It goes without saying the age was toned down by the time he started seriously pitching it to Nickelodeon.
It started
In fact,
out as Stud
it turned from a more
Puppy.
serious concept into a workplace comedy that parodied spy movies and films. This is basically spy year for this channel, isn't it? When it was announced in June 2009, Eric Bowser was implied to be in the lead role, but whether it be a recast or executive note, he was replaced by iCarly co-star Jerry Trainer. I barely watched iCarly, but from what I saw, Trainer was a charismatic enough actor despite
one of the
patchy
characters in
writing.
iCarly?
Still, you can tell he was cast as cross-promotion. iCarly was bigger than SpongeBob at the time, literally the only Nickelodeon series this century you could ever say that about. I'll just say this early, but the casting isn't the problem with the performances. T.U.F.F Puppy eventually premiered on October 2nd, 2010, the same day as Planet Sheen. One of them certainly got the better
Diary
first impression.
of an MLG
There were some fans
no-scoper.
of Butch that were disappointed that he had apparently abandoned Danny Phantom, but it was popular enough to not get booted to Nicktoons after its first season. It took 2. And ended on April 4th, 2015 after a pretty short third season. But at this point, a homegrown Nicktoon getting to a third season was a special occasion. Is that because of a positive reception from audiences, or because Butch was on Nickelodeon executives' wavelength?
Okay, Agent Puppy. We'll start today's training in the T.U.F.F headquarters secret weapons room.
Kitty.
Awesome! What's this?
Dudley Puppy was a plain old mutt, except for the fact that he's the perfect mixed breed for crime fighting. One day, he becomes aware of a top-secret crime-fighting organization called T.U.F.F, and despite him not being very bright, he's hired pretty quickly and committed to taking down any evildoers in Petropolis. Not a bad premise at all, but you know what you're getting, so it may lack surprise and freshness. Like, if this was made in the 60s, it would fit quite snugly. Dudley and Underdog would be 2 peas in a pod, but definitely not characterization-wise. Here's the thing. Dudley had potential to be a great character, one that could learn to develop his canine senses and crime-fighting abilities, but those are all sorted out from the start depending on the plot, so you're just left with a protagonist who gets thrown the idiot ball over time, because that's apparently easier to write stories around.
Snacks.
Classic Fairly OddParents had foolish characters, but they at least felt like they could learn something by the end of the episode. I trusted Dudley way less, due to how inconsistent his skills are. His partner in crime fighting is Kitty Catswell, named so because she's really good at being a cat. She's mostly there to be the straight-laced foil, do most of the work, or get beaten up mercilessly by the laws of slapstick.
Slapstick, like
Kitty
Tom
and
and
Dudley
Jerry.
combine for a standard buddy comedy duo, but the brains of the operation are very one-sided. Their technology expert, Keswick, would have to be my favorite character on this show. They gave him some decent focus in invention-based stories, and since they didn't base him on any animal in particular, his mannerisms and lore get progressively stranger. A big drawback to him, however, is that he stutters a lot, and I don't think it was out of any kindness on the creative staff's part. If you have a speech impediment, just know Butch Hartman hates your guts. Their boss is the Chief, a little flea who carries himself around with an electric monitor with a blue background. Yes, even out in a place like this, the background is still blue. Again, he ticks all the boxes you'd want. He's gruff but got a good heart, stern but a little senile sometimes. He's got big bushy eyebrows until they get trimmed later on. There's a bunch of other field agents who hardly do anything, just leaving Tammy, their hyper-competent secretary introduced in late season 2. See, diversity hires do work. Even though the main characters are quite stock when you spend too much time with them, they're way more consistent than the villains. The Minius Snaptrap is a rash with a really squeaky, gravelly voice that gets hard to listen to after 2 episodes, so it's a good thing he appears in dozens. He's as annoying as he is incompetent, so he's hardly even a threat. More of a comic relief than anything.
And you thought my
honestly
voice
want
was
to spend more
annoying.
time with his lackeys, Ollie and Francesco. I'd even prefer Larry. There, I said it. Bird Brain is the polar opposite. He's a smart booby and is generally fine, but his lackeys are a one-note joke dragged out too long. Every time they do their routine, you have to play a 5-second waiting game for it to be over so the action can resume. They're a pace breaker, nothing more. The Chameleon rounds out the main trio of bad guys, and would probably be my favorite of them. Sure, he needs a Tron suit to transform into other objects, but he has the most humanity of anyone here, getting beaten down by the world constantly and just wanting a friend. An even less successful group of evildoers is Flop, which includes the Meerkat, Wannabe, and a Scapegoat. All of them except for Wannabe are elaborate puns, who gets a bit more focus towards the end of the show. Quacky is a kid show host who's turned to the dark side, constantly taking advantage of the fact that Dudley still likes his work to land him in trouble. Fine character, usually dreadful stories that are too self-aware about their contrivances to even function properly. He also has a moose friend, moving on. There's Jack Rabbit, a suave British former T.U.F.F agent who's now evil. I'm highlighting him over other minor villains because they really had something here, but didn't give him enough attention to further delve into his relationship with T.U.F.F. There aren't many other characters of importance. More notoriously, there's a goose called Mr. Wong who embodies at least a dozen Chinese stereotypes. It wasn't great when the Fairly OddParent... Sorry, wrong screen cap. It wasn't great when the Fairly OddParents was doing them in 2003, but you'd think these writers would have grown up by now. You also get some mothers, the most prominent being Dudley's mother, Peg. There's a few differences between them in smarts and stature, but you
Dudley's
can tell
mother.
it stayed loving. Anyone else?
The mayor.
Eric, the water cooler repair guy, is eye catnip for Kitty. If you ever wondered what happened to Dan Danger,
Dan
he
Danger
got
from the
reincarnated as a furry.
cartoons.
Happy now?
Oh,
sweet
of course.
freedom!
The writing?
I saw things in that jail no one should ever see!
You were in a holding cell, and the only thing in there was a vending machine.
But it was all out of cookies, and it wouldn't take my dollar!
The thing with T.U.F.F. Puppy you have to get used to is that sometimes it forgets what genre it even is. The premise is always that T.U.F.F. is a secret agency, but sometimes the writers will forget that and turn it into a cop show. Dudley and Kitty will show up to schools to talk about the importance of their jobs, which isn't something secret agents do, because they're secret. And locking the villains behind bars becomes an increasingly common indicator that their job is done. It's weird, the theme song states that Dudley's doing secret agent stuff. It's a parody of Secret Agent Man, for Pete's sake. But some of the writers were under the impression this was a cop show. But this is only one example of the producers being very lenient with the script writing quality. Joke-wise, it falls into a lot of the same traps the Fairly Odd Parents started falling into over time. Like running gags that could have been fun if they just added something to the gag, instead of just putting funny words together and hammering them in every 3 minutes. Another one of their favorite tricks is having two characters in different scenes and groups doing the same thing. The joke being that it's weird, both the good guy and bad guy like the thing.
I sure do like
Not sorry I explained the joke into nothing, because they do it multiple times, and it somehow makes the world feel less dynamic. It's one of the worst ways to do their old blatantly telegraphed subversion. You'll also notice the characters fall asleep a lot in this show. Not because these instances are all exceptionally memorable, but because Guy Moon's little rockabye baby jingle is burnt into my brain now. In general, the soundtrack for this show is quite repetitive, not badly orchestrated at all, but it feels like you've heard every major theme too many times by the end. I'll give Guy credit for going with a new sound again. The Fairly Odd Parents was big band, Danny Phantom was techno, and now he's doing 60s rock. All his shows have commonalities, but the music genre is always tweaked, which keeps them unique and appeases fans of all the genres. And I'll also defend T.U.F.F. Puppy on the very diverse story selection. The writing is very plot-driven, with the premise being the primary focus, the jokes being the secondary focus, and the character development, introspection, analysis, growth, understanding, do you know who made this show?
Butch Hartman.
Basically, any episode could be your favorite. Anything they do could scratch the right itch. It's generally a good sign when that's the case, but by that same token, any episode could also be your least favorite attempt at entertainment. If the concept bores you and the jokes they make about it don't land, then it's going to be a frustrating time. I think I've been pretty hard on T.U.F.F. Puppy so far, and I haven't even gotten into the first season yet, so happy thoughts. Here you go, season by season now.
Bon Jovi!
Season 1.
I'll say right now that if you want a fine show that's not too awful, but also not amazing, Season 1 of T.U.F.F. Puppy will deliver that. It's by far the most consistently okay of the bunch, and there's nothing wrong with the first season being that way. Most of the time, when I get to the end of an episode, I'll be thinking, that was okay, but I'm not itching to see the next one. This is definitely the kind of cartoon designed to be watched once a Saturday morning. If you watch too much of it too quickly, the nagging issues will pile up. Those nagging issues vary across the show's run. Early on, it's some of the more generic sitcom and cartoon plots you have to get through, plot points so episodic it makes the canon feel disjointed, pointing out questionable things which only makes them more questionable, but the later seasons have a few more tricks up their sleeve for you. By and large, they do a decent job setting up the world, and most of the villains have serviceable debuts. If not, there's a higher chance they'll be one-offs, due to them not leaving strong enough of a first impression. Each of the four main characters are given plenty of things to do in Season 1, plenty of their own episodes to show off how they would each deal with a conflict. It quickly establishes they each have unique storytelling possibilities, but sadly, the later seasons don't do enough for some of them to find their voices. One area where they definitely backed themselves into a corner was with the title and end cards. With Billy and Fold's prior shows, they were pretty straightforward, just make pretty title cards, then put the end on them. Very classy and classical. In T.U.F.F. Puppy, each of the title credits are displayed in case files, with a few plot-relevant photos dotted around. But these tiny black and white photos don't do enough to show you what the episode is gonna be like. The idea for the end cards make up for that at first, with the characters in some sort of peril before striking a pose like they're taking a photo. It's a weird and silly way to cap things off, and fits the environment of the